Okay. Martin, you need to mute. Thank you. Well, we're so delighted to have Rick Bettencourt with us today. I found his information on the FWA speakers site and thought he would be a wonderful addition to the programs that we offer. Uh, he's well published, well known for his work, and um, he's a Massachusetts native, and I am too. So I have to
Ah,
find out where in Massachusetts he lives. So the floor is yours, Rick.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ann. Can you all hear me okay?
Mhm.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Awesome. Well, let me share my screen. And Ann, I did not know that you are from Massachusetts. I grew up I can't talk and share at the same time. All right, can you see my screen? See the Zoom? Yes? Okay. Let me first of all.
We're seeing a picture. Is that what you want us to see?
Yeah, I need to
Okay,
just share my
there
uh
we go.
There we go.
just swap. Um, hold on one. Sorry about this. Swap. Okay.
That's okay.
All right. We're good.
Good.
Okay. Yeah. So Ian, I grew up in a town called Peabody, or
Oh.
yeah. So outside of Salem, Massachusetts. So and I moved to Florida about 10 or so years ago.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Well, I'm from the small town in western Massachusetts called Feeding Hills. It's where the settlers brought their cattle to feed,
Oh
and
my
it's the
goodness.
birthplace of Annie Sullivan, the teacher of Helen Keller. So that's
Wow.
our claim to fame.
Wow,
It's
that's
in the
pretty cool.
Berkshires. Yeah.
Yeah, that's almost like a different state, like
Oh, yes.
Western Massachusetts. Like
Yes,
I probably
everything.
count on hand like what the number of times I've been there, right?
Yeah.
But cool, cool. Awesome. Well, thank you all for having me discuss marketing and joining your writers group today. I'm excited to share some things with you about about marketing, right? So I'll get into my background in a second, but one of the reasons I love doing this topic is many of us fiction authors or writers in general identify as introverts. And when we start thinking about marketing, we think, oh boy, I'm going to have to shout from the rooftop and promote and say how great I am when I'm not into doing that. So that's one of the things that I've done a similar talk like this at a couple of conferences and elsewhere. So I think you'll get some value out of this and let me, by way of background, talk about who I am. Ian gave me a great introduction, but just in case you don't know who I am, I have been writing as a self-published, or as we call it, indie author, since about 2013, and had some other things published before then. But in terms of novels. They originally published through a publishing firm in the United Kingdom, and then eventually saw that, you know what, it's actually more profitable for me to do this myself. So I started doing that in 2013. So I got a handful of novels. My most recent one's down here. They just released last month, so I'm in the throes of working through all of those. I have been the working with Florida Writers Association, as Ann mentioned, for the last several years, and it's a great organization. And if you're not part of it, I highly suggest having a writers guild like you all have is great. Being part of a greater community is even, I think, is beneficial. We just had our conference last month; it was really, really good. Um, so and I give this sort of as just a background of what I do and who I am. I have not published up until last month, have not published a book in over 6 years. And part of it is because I've been so damn busy the with the Florida Writers Association. But let me see if I can add my pointer. I like to use my pointer. So I was the former president and vice president, so now I'm just a board of directors, and I kind of like that. So it's able to give me some ability to do some of the other things. But enough about me. If you have any questions, actually at any point in this, if you have any questions, just raise your hand or shout out. I know you're all on mute, but this is interactive in my opinion. Oh, one. Um, Personal note, I actually have had some a leak in my kitchen. Not that you care about that, but so I do have a contractor coming to the house at probably a little past 11-ish, so I may have to just let them in and then I'll come right back. So if that happens, um, just want to give you a heads up. But in terms of what we're going to talk about this morning, we're gonna, in terms of marketing, we're gonna look at three core things. We're gonna talk about the inner work, and some of it might be mindset, and well, it is mindset. Uh, so we'll talk about the details of why that's so important. And well, we won't spend a lot of time on it. You probably know the importance of mindset, but I just want to touch upon it from a writing perspective. And then what the heck is marketing? When we talk about marketing, there's this funnel. So I want to talk about, make sure everybody's clear on what a marketing funnel is, and then also get into how we can actually feed that funnel, which is really the core of marketing. And then we'll wrap up with some questions. So, inner work. I love this quote, and I think it's so important to think of this as the subject of this is how to market your books without losing your soul. And for me, I'm a spiritual kind of guy, and I love to bring my best, my inner best to what I do. And what I do in terms of writing a novel or in marketing, or actually even in talking to great folks like you, like writers. I'm passionate about helping creatives market their best, bring their best to the table because I truly feel that those of us who are creative have a purpose and a vision. And when we feel good about ourselves, whether it's our work or our marketing or whatever, the better we feel, the better we can impact others in a positive way. And really, that's what at the end of the day, what we're trying to do with our marketing, with our books, is to get that out into other, to make an impact. And whether that's to make somebody laugh or cry or entertain or educate them if you're a nonfiction writer. But there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is that deep down inside of us, the real who of what we are beyond this body and mind is that person that you really are believes in you in your dreams. And if you want to get that book out there, there's a reason for that. And I'm passionate about helping people get there. Um, and there's a myth that I like to debunk is that, well, before I understand how to market, I need to know everything. I need to feel confident and I need to be able to do it. And that's just not the case. Just begin competency. Think of being more competent. The more competent we are with something, the more confidence we acquire. And that's really what's at key is just doing it. And then that builds competency and the technical skills to do some of this stuff. And then confidence comes through that. So competence over confidence. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but just that, remember that everybody started out with zero readers or a little pocket of readers. So even Stephen King and Colleen Hoover and some of the greats, they started from from nowhere. So if- keep that in mind. So, let's do it. Let's get it done. Don't worry about getting it right. This is one of the other things I tell a lot of my writers is and feel free to take screenshots of this at any point, or I can also at the end I can send this to Anne, the presentation at the end, just so if you want to. I'm not going to walk through all of the specifics here, but some of these are just one thing that I like to tell people. And I know, we want to get things, we want to have our books well edited. I mean, that's right. We want to, we have to be proofed and they have to be good. But in even when it comes to marketing, right? We want our marketing to reflect who we really are. But so many times, a lot of us get, and I speak from my own experience, we get hung up on needing to get it right before we even start. And sometimes you just got to start. And so I tell writers, don't worry about getting it right. Let's get it written. And it's the same with whether you're writing copy for your for your book cover, or you're writing a book description or your bio. Don't worry about so much about getting it right. Get it written. You're not going to necessarily publish it right, but get that momentum of working on it makes a lot of impact. So, so there's really four key things that hold us back from when we're when we don't move forward. And that's we are trying to make things perfect. And that's kind of what we just talked about, right? So let's not worry about getting it right. Let's get it written so we can move forward. Whether that's your book or whether that's your marketing collateral. Procrastination, I just, I'll get to it, I'll get to it. So, think about from your perspective, which of these four key areas are holding you back so you can work on that. Is it you're just procrastinating learning, procrastinating, you need to have an email list, and we'll talk a lot about that, but you don't look into researching how to actually do that. Or is it imposter syndrome? Is it, who the heck am I to publish this book? I'm just little old me, or and and maybe there's some instances where we're just burnt out, right? So and I've in my personal experience had to take back, I've all this work at Florida Writers and writing, and I just had to say, whoa, wait a minute. Before I burn myself out, I need to take a break and recharge so I can, because that was holding me back. So think about this, and what are these some areas here that are maybe holding you back? The other thing that I tell teams that I work with, whether it's I do a lot of work in corporate writing in the corporate space, or whether it's a nonprofit such as Florida Writers, is to focus on what I call, well, I didn't make this up, but this is uh, the Eisenhower matrix. Some people call it that, or other people call it the time management matrix. But focusing on, and it may seem counterintuitive, but the not so urgent things that are important. And I call this quadrant two. So whether we're planning a marketing campaign, planning our writing, planning our personal life. We want to focus on preparation, planning, prevention, and you could even think of that from health prevention, right? I mean, there's a reason why we go to the doctor every 6 months or every year, right? So we want to be so that's important. It's not urgent, but it's important. Personal care activities, relationship building relationships with, even like a meeting like this, you're building relationships with one another. This is great. I love this sort of stuff. And recognizing, spelt in English, in UK, recognizing new opportunities, taking care of new opportunities, planning, which we already mentioned, and recreation. So those things are important versus oh, I got to get my books being published next month and I haven't done enough work. So now I got all these pressing deadlines and my entire week or day is spent in this. And a lot of us have, been there, right? And I still am. So I have to every week I take every either Sunday night or Monday morning I take an hour to plan out my week and make sure that I put these what I call big rocks into what I need to do. So the big rocks are those quadrant two. So in looking at it from holistic, my life holistically, I'm a husband, I'm a writer, I'm a business owner, uh, all of those roles that I play. Which one of those roles do I want to focus on, and which of the big rocks, those quadrant two, not necessarily urgent, but important things do I want to focus on? Because if we look at filling we may have heard of this in the past, sort of filling a jar, right? If you fill it first with a bunch of sand, you're never going to get the big rocks in there. So the key is to really put those big rocks in first, and then you can actually, there's actually a lot of space in there to fill in all those little, pour in some more sand afterwards. So just an analogy when it comes to marketing as well. So marketing funnels. What the heck, Rick, is a marketing funnel? When we buy anything, people need more than one interaction to hit the buy button. Or even, think of yourself when you go and buy a car, right? You're not jumping in there, you've done some research, maybe you've gone there a couple times. It's the same when you're buying a $3.99 ebook or a $20 paperback. I'll look at it, maybe, yeah, put it on my TBR list in my head or a piece of paper or somewhere. So people need to understand who you are and get that in front of people. So many authors that I've worked with think that, marketing is I take my Amazon link and I post it on Facebook, or I send people my link or and ask them to buy my book. Buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. But as we'll see here, we're playing the long game here. We have to make sure that people know who we are, why we do what we do, and share that with us as we move forward. So what we want to do is bring authenticity uh, to our marketing, just like we do it in our writing. If you were to think of these, and these are just some adjectives to describe yourself, who are you? What of these would describe you? And if you were to take three or five of these that maybe resonate with you, yeah, maybe I'm kind of funny, and spiritual, I'm honest, for me, those sort of things resonate with me. So when I'm writing from a marketing perspective, I'm bringing that into my marketing. And I'm not necessarily a loud person. I'm not very, pushy and opinionated. Oh, well, others may feel differently on that, but when so I don't necessarily, I want to bring what makes what I am to the table. And this really goes with anything, right? But it's no different from a marketing perspective or in selling your books, is you want to bring that to the table. So think about that. And when we look at the what a funnel is, what a marketing funnel is, we have our top of funnel, we have the middle of the funnel, and then we have the bottom of the funnel. A lot of people go for the bottom of the funnel right away. But what we need to do is start big picture. We actually at Florida Writers Conference a couple of weekends ago, there was another uh, author who actually I'm going to be collaborating with and doing a workshop with in the next few weeks. But she used the analogy of she was a farmer and a cattle herder, and getting cattle into this. I think she called it a chute or something like that. That you're pushing them and you're guiding them into where you want them to go, and that's really the same way. At the end of here is your book, buy my book, right down here. But you're starting from an awareness uh, perspective. So we're going to talk a lot about how to get people through your funnel because not your book's not for everybody, right? So you want to build that awareness, and we can do that through several ways, some of which are listed here: social media, lead magnets, author collaborations, ads is another one, and then getting them and then having that engagement. And this is where we bring in that, well, even more so, you bring it in here too, but in here, you bring in that authenticity. Who are you really? Because we want to be engaging with those people before we really ask them to buy a car. Like when you walk into a car, when you walk in to buy your book, when you walk into the showroom, the Ford showroom or the Volkswagen showroom, they're, hey, buy this car, they're building a relationship with, they're engaging with you. And then you're gonna get to the orders at the end. Questions? Okay. So how do we do all this? In feeding the book sales. So let's look at this quote that uh, I do a lot of copywriting, and this gentleman, he's a young guy in his very early 30s, and but has literally sold, I think at this point, like $200 million worth of product. And his approach, and is similar to that lack of looking for perfection, is it's better to follow an average plan than it is not to follow a perfect one. Follow an average plan. Let's get that plan together. Let's act on it, and we can pivot in course correct as we go, rather than over engineering and trying to make this beautiful marketing plan or this beautiful book for that matter. And so follow that your plan doesn't have to be perfect. So just as a reminder to for that. Um, yeah, so his name's Ian Stanley. I don't know why this is building that. Okay. So what is the process here? And we'll spend a little bit of time on this just so that we're clear on how we actually do this. So from left to right, so the real authentically focused view is here. And if you're lucky enough to have a large social media following, then you can use that social media following, but still we want them to join our mailing list. So I'm a big proponent. So as I mentioned earlier, I have not published a book prior to last month for about 6 years, but I continually get royalty checks month after month, and some decent ones, having not having had, this from my backlog, because I have followed this process of feeding my funnel over and over and getting new people into my funnel to buy my older books. And now I'm in the process of doing that for my my new series that I'm launching. But I don't have a big social media following. I'm not a huge social media proponent, to be honest. I go on it and I use it more personally than anything. I've explored a little bit lately with TikTok for book talk. You probably heard about book talk, and is a big uh, push on and that's great. But my focus, and if you and I'm not alone in this, is email lists. And there's a reason why email is important. One thing is that you actually own those emails. So if you are taking sort of the wrong way approach to quote marketing and taking your Amazon link and posting it into Facebook and asking people to buy it, you may get some sales on that, from your friends and whatnot. And if you have a large social media following, I wouldn't say don't do that, but in addition to that, you want to build your email list. And why do you want to build an email list? Is because you own those emails. You may be lucky enough to have 10, 20,000 Twitter followers. Uh, but you're not able to send a message to those 10 or 20 people. Twitter or Facebook or whatever social media of the day that you're using, Book Talk for that, TikTok, they're they being the company, the social media, are controlling that through the algorithms. You probably heard, the social media algorithms. I could put a post out there, but my 10,000 Twitter followers are not all going to get that, right? So there's a lot of things that go into that, and a lot of it has to do with algorithms, and I don't have any interest in trying to figure out algorithms and trying to tweak my tweets that so that all 10,000 of my Twitter followers hear my message that, to go buy their book, to go buy my book. Instead, I have them on my email list. I have an email list that where they actually where I engage with them and bring that authentic self into the picture. So what we want to do, rather than asking people to buy my book, is asking people to join your mailing list, your email mailing list. Why would they want to join your email list? Oh, do I see if somebody has a chat? Just Um, okay. Yeah, I'll give my contact information at the end of all of this so you can reach out to me. There's we want to give something away, and we'll talk about what a lead magnet. We'll talk about the process in a little bit more in a little bit more detail. Why, join my email list. I'll give you a in we'll do that through what's called a landing page, and we're giving away a freebie or a lead magnet. Maybe it's a novella that you wrote, or it's the first book in a series, or it's a collection of short stories, or it's from a nonfiction perspective, maybe it's a course on how to do something. Um, and then you're going to send some automated emails. And then at that point, that's only when you're going to ask them to start buying your book and buying your quote unquote premium content, if you would. Uh, and this is the same funnel, this process selling, and I'm sure you've all been through this where somebody's selling you a $2,000 course or something. It's the same process. They're starting with that top of funnel, getting you interested, having you sign up for something, getting you on an email list, and then at that point, asking you to buy. So it's the same process, right? So if you have like I said, if you have a great social media following, that is a great way to put people through this process. But for those of us who do not have a huge social media following, there are ways to actually feed that funnel so that you get new people onto your email list. And you can do that through ads, and you can do that through collaborations. with other authors and some of these, and we'll talk about the details on this in subsequent pages. But while you're doing that, and while you're building your email list, you're doing that with that authentically focused person so that your emails are genuine and it's from who you really are so that people engage with you. You want people want to engage with writers that they like and know, right? So, oh, Denise, I think you had a question. Oh, you're on
Oh,
mute. Oh, there you go.
yes, I did. I was trying to figure out how I can lower my hand, how I could raise my hand. I was wondering if you use an email list manager when
I
you were
do.
talking about, and I was wondering if you could just tell us what that is and how that works for you.
Yeah, perfect segue, Denise. Thank you so much. So the next page, if I can get there, there we go, is what is this email? What the heck is email marketing in a nutshell? And first of all, we want to pick a platform. And so to answer your question, these are three of there's a lot of there's other ones, but the three that I hear most that a lot of authors specifically use are listed here. So MailerLite is a decent one. I have used Mailchimp in the past, and currently right now I'm using System.io. It just has a lot more robust capabilities in it, but these are some of the platforms, like I say, to use. All three of these have free options. So if you're trying to build that list, maybe you don't have a list to import into them to start, you got to start from scratch. I think in this changes every so often, so don't quote me on it, like 500 to 1,000 free uh, subscribers, so once you get past that, then you have to start paying some money. But up until that, they're typically free. So and you're able to build those platforms. So yeah, so MailerLite, Mailchimp, System.io, ConvertKit is another one, but ConvertKit, in my opinion, I it's probably a little bit too advanced for um, unless you have a big mailing list and you're doing a lot of and maybe a lot of pen names and in different scenarios. So uh, but these are some good options, right? So pick that platform, and then uh, there's usually tutorials in all of these on how to actually build it. Once you pick it or choose one, how to actually build that what's called a landing page or an opt-in page. And a lot of people think about marketing, they think I need to have a website. And yes, having a website is great and it's something in the long game you need from a branding perspective to do, but you don't need to even start with a website. If you don't have a website, you can go into one of these platforms and they'll give you a landing page, which is which will have a URL that you can promote and a nice little page that people land upon. And then they fill in their name, and you probably all have done this, sign up and, send you my free book. Uh, and I'll actually have a link so you can see mine at the end. Put your name in here and your email address, and I'll send you a free book or whatever your quote lead magnet is. So building that platform, I mean, you can do step two here in parallel, right? Is actually make sure you have a lead magnet. What is that thing that you're going to give away to entice people to join your email list? So have that lead magnet. And then you want to promote this landing page that you just created. We want to promote that sign up page. In where do you do that? Well, you can do that in your book matter, in the front of your book, whether you're in the in my book that the front matter is the beginning of your book, or at the end of your book, you want to put in here what I'm not know why I'm showing this, can't see it through the screen, but the uh join my book and join my email list. So in my new book, it's a fantasy series. The lead magnet that I'm giving away it's the first two chapters of series one, but it's also a companion guide to the series. So there's bios on all of the characters. It's fantasy, so fantasy is going to be a little more, bigger scope. Uh, Pictures, pictures of character pictures. So that's one idea of, but I also have other lead magnets that I've given away in the past that are novellas. Um, So, but where do you promote those? You promote them in your existing books, and probably more, if you have a website, that's a great place to do it. If you have a blog, that's a great place to do it. Social media is a great place to do it. And then we have paid ads. So, um, when I was when Ian and I first met to talk about this subject matter of this, it started a little bit more focused on, let's look at specifically at Amazon ads, and that's not to say that Amazon ads aren't great or Facebook ads aren't great or these things aren't great, but you need to have that broader perspective and that bigger picture. Otherwise, it's a little bit of a waste of money if you're just throwing things in, you haven't optimized things correctly. So, and we'll talk about two sort of broad categories of marketing in a minute. But but in this perspective, we're playing the long game, right? We're not asking people to buy our book right away. We're developing a platform. We're developing a following via email to get people to eventually buy our books and to love our books and to buy all of our books. And, there's that concept of 1,000 true fans and having uh, people who are so enthralled with what you do, they're basically going to buy anything and everything that you put out. And you can have a thriving business, be it an authorship or selling donuts, with 1,000 true fans, right? So you can in that numbers, just roughly, but having true dedicated followers that really love what you do. So we want to promote that landing page. And again, here we're playing the long game. We're not promoting books, we're promoting our landing page and effectively promoting a lead magnet of a free book. Once we get them on our list, we want to nurture that list. And we do that through a couple of ways, through welcome sequences, which are getting people to sign. Once they sign up, they go through, and I'll show you just an example of one in the next slide. But once they sign up, they automatically get an email one, and then a couple days later they get email two. A couple days later they get email three, and you can customize that. And any one of these three, MailerLite, Mailchimp, System.io, all do that. There's an automated campaign that you put people through to welcome them. On top of that, you can do what I call blast emails, or whether they're weekly or bi-weekly, where you're sending out. Some people may think of it as a quote newsletter that everybody, that's fine, to do a quote newsletter that uh, just talking about bringing that authentically focused you into those your audience's email. So that's one way of nurturing. Then is actually providing more promotional content to the list. So you've got your list in here, and then we're engaging. We're engaging as that sort of middle of the funnel, and then now we're moving toward that bottom of funnel where we're saying, by the way, did you know that I wrote The Rise of the Normals? In my instance, and I'm not going to say it necessarily like that, but for me, I'm not a aggressive person, so I'm not. So, so my quote, what we call a call to action in the marketing industry is, what do I want you to do? I want you to buy my book. I want you to click this link. In this specific email, my emails have one call to action on it, is with typically, sometimes I'll put a couple of, but most of them just have one call to action. Whereas, sometimes you'll get these sort of newsletters that we send out, we get through maybe some e-com, where there's 25 links and there's all these products and all these pictures, and that's not how I do email marketing. Mine is very hyper focused, and I'll use some examples, give you some examples in a minute. But there's one call to action. If there's a link, it's click this link if you want to learn more about this novel or something like that. And again, that's not the exact copy that I would use, but one link. And promote. So that's where you're doing your promotional content. But the point I want to raise here is there's also that getting to know you content that, yes, there's some of that in your welcome sequence, but there's all in some of that in your weekly emails. Um, but when you're in this, even at the bottom of the funnel, there's still that just general entertaining email content. You're not asking, and this is just a rough guideline, like 90% of my emails are sort of that non-salesy, I'm not telling you to do anything for that matter. It's just giving you genuine content on entertaining stuff. So that's the sort of writing of the content. And then there's other details about it about your list that gets a little bit more like you could optimize your list. You want to take the people who don't open emails, you want to get rid of that because eventually when you start growing your list, you don't want to pay for people that don't even open your emails. You can segment your list if you're a nonfiction writer and fiction writer, or you write in a couple genres. You may want to tag people. These are the people who like romance. These are the people who like nonfiction, uh, and then groom that list over time, and then continue to feed that funnel and grow your list. So that's the steps in process. Here's an example of my general welcome sequence from fiction. So when people get onto my email list, the first email they get is this. Well, actually, it's this first one. This one I think I shut off. Yeah, because it's is my philosophy on entertaining, right? So, this has no call to action in it other than to just tell people, welcoming them to my email and saying, this is who I am. This is what I write about. This is what I like to read. This is what I like to watch on TV, on shows. Just being a genuine, telling a story. And authors, specifically fiction authors, we're great at telling stories, right? We're great at bring the story of who you are into your emails and engage with people with story related content. Talking about how you went to the laundromat or you went to pick up your dry cleaning. Like you can take the simplest of things and create that and use that as almost a creative writing exercise. How can I I'm just making this up, but how can I take going to pick up my dry cleaning and writing that into maybe 250 words of an email that is actually entertaining, and using that as a challenge to write that to my email. So one, they get to know a little bit about me. Secondly, and I'm in all of that, I'm not making any of this, in my email specifically. I'm not making up stories. There is a time and a place where you want to put maybe some content from your book. And here's a a passage from my book. But for the most part, it's creative nonfiction, if you would. It's going to the laundromat. It's going grocery, having an argument with somebody, and then taking that, and then at the end, maybe even relating that to one of your books. And I have an argument with my spouse, yada yada, and then coincidentally, that reminded me of my character Tim in Tim on Broadway when he does this and that. By the way, if you haven't read it, uh, here's click the link below to learn more about it. I'd love for you to buy it. Simple, right? We're not putting it's 99 cents this week, and there's a time and place for that too, but for me it's just that genuine. So all of this is creative nonfiction, if you would, uh, stories, and these are just the subject lines of them that um, that are entertaining. And if pretty much every single day when I get an email from somebody that responds to the email that they got with an emoji or laugh out loud or I'd love this, keep these emails coming, these are funny, I look forward to your email. And that's what you want. You want to have people actually getting your emails that looking forward to your emails. But so what do you actually write about? So here are just some ideas. Again, you can screenshot this. I'll send this out to you. That I just mentioned philosophy on writing. And these are things that you can talk about in your emails. Maybe a rant on a book review that you got. Maybe it was a bad one and you're giving a rant on it. You're just mad about it. Or, um, uh, what's the worst advice you ever got? Uh, just some other, and this is probably most of mine are sort of as self-deprecating stories. I'm very good at silly things that I've done and embarrassing. Oh, okay. This is the contractor that I talked about. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Sorry about this. Put myself on mute. Oh, no. Door's open. Yep. Okay. Rusty, please be quiet. So, um, ideas for marketing. All right. 1 second. Hold on. All right. Sorry about that. Um, did somebody else have a question? I see something to use. Okay, so Denise, that was Denise's question. Uh, so again, some more ideas for how we're actually grooming that list is things and I like these sort of as subject lines. The number one way to, or the number one stupidest thing I did, or the worst advice, the best advice, uh, most least, the dumbest character in my book, the smartest, just things to start for you to start thinking about. You probably have seen some of like the number like 10 reasons not to do something. Questions are a good subject line that create. So you want to create in your emails, you want to um, number one goal in an email, well, the first goal, I should say. The first goal is to get somebody to open the email. And how do they do that? Well, you have to create an interesting subject line so that they actually open it. And then there's all right, well, and then they got to read the first line. So you have to make that first. So this is all copywriting 101 stuff, but and similar, like you probably heard of like a headline, right? So even like a news article, headlines get people's attention, and then they may read the first sentence and or maybe skim it. And so there's a whole host of copywriting secrets, or not even secrets, but tactics, if you would, to do that. But these are just some additional ideas for email marketing. Okay, so we talked about uh, the long game, right? The long game is building email lists, having that top of funnel, pulling them into. There are ways, and this is, had I, there are ways to directly market your book. And so not, as I mentioned, when we looked at the whole process and the in marketing, uh, there are some great ways to do that, right? So, and Amazon ads, Facebook ads, BookBub ads are great ways to do that. Um, and that's really what we're saying. Rather than creating ads or creating visibility for that landing page to give away your lead magnet, we're creating a ad directly to our book. And that may seem like the quickest route, but that longer game that we talked about is the approach that I take. That's not to say that I don't do these things in a time and place, but if you do not have a an optimized product page, and for us authors, a product page is our Amazon page for that book on Amazon, right? And for it to be optimized, it's got to look good. So one, it's got to the book page itself has to look good. What is probably the number one thing that is probably the book cover. If the cover is amateurish or not done professionally, or any of these things. If the content, if the book description is not tweaked and good and on focus, if you have low reviews, I wouldn't bother putting a lot of money on ads because you're just going to send people to it, and they're not even the first thing they're going to see is the book cover. They're going to look at reviews. Well, yeah, okay. Read the description. Um, maybe I'll pass. Um, or so I mean, so I don't want people to waste, until you're optimized to actually send people directly to your book. Once you have an engaged email list, now that's back to that long game. You have the engaged email list. Yes, you can send people to maybe your page. How are you going to get reviews? Well, you're going to get reviews through your email marketing list, right? So, and because they know they've gotten your emails, they love the emails that you write, they're more apt to buy it with 2, 3, 20 reviews. Um, so again, uh, great ways to do direct to book ads are specifically Amazon, and BookBub is and there's two flavors of BookBub which are listed here. You may have heard of this, but there's the BookBub featured deal, which even if you don't even have a lot of reviews, if you can get a BookBub featured deal, go for it. They're hard to get, and they're expensive, but they're definitely worth it. And that's so. And if you haven't heard of BookBub, BookBub is a curated list that of thousands and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands probably of readers that are specifically niched by genre, and BookBub for $500 or something will feature your book if they determine that they like it, and it's kind of has to go along with some of this. They may for new may low reviews, maybe they may sort of overlook that, but if your book page is great, you've got great reviews, you've got a great cover, uh, then they'll give you a book bump. Then, but there's also another flavor of BookBub, which are ads themselves, and those you, you can create. And at the bottom of those newsletters, you can place an ad that lists your book in a nice little image. So those are easier to get, but that goes again, that goes directly to your Amazon book page. And then there's obviously the Amazon ads. And then Facebook is also good. You can sell directly to using Facebook. I like this, what I think is more of the sweet spot, which is BookFunnel and Prolific Works. I haven't used Prolific Works used to be called Insta Freebie. Now they're called Prolific Works. I have not used them in the last few years, but I have been using BookFunnel, and this is how I continually grow my email list is through BookFunnel. And again, that's sort of in that process is feeding that funnel, that top of funnel to get people onto your list. Okay. And then what is a book funnel? So here's an example of a book funnel giveaway promo. And really what this is just collaborating with other authors. So you look here, this is, I think it was a fantasy or maybe a romance fantasy giveaway. So you're working with other authors that in BookFunnel creates a page, a landing page with everybody's picture of everybody's free giveaway. So here's that lead magnet again, that free giveaway. Once they click on your book, they go to another page that gives a nice little description that's very easy to do, and BookFunnel gives you all of those details. And then they click that, get your book, your free lead magnet, and are then automatically added to your email list. And there's some setup there, but it's fairly easy to do. That's how the approach that I take. Prolific Works does another example of this. BookFunnel also has some direct sales things that you can, if your book is on sale, for instance, you can do some direct sales on that as well. So that's one of the reasons I like BookFunnel. It just has a lot of options. Um, okay, Denise, question, which is perfect timing because I think this is sort of the wrap up. So
Oh, thank you. I was just wondering, for when you're using something like BookFunnel, are you sending out ebooks or are they you're actually sending hard copies?
good question. It's ebooks.
Okay,
Ebooks. Yeah, yeah. For
thanks.
the most part, it's ebooks because you're doing. There are ways that other things that you can do. So right now, I'm actually working on Goodreads has another sort of giveaway. You can do a giveaway for ebooks,
Mhm.
but there's also you can do the physical books. And I just did a giveaway for my novel actually that, come on, okay, my dog has to say hi to everybody.
What a cutie.
Oh, driving me crazy. I'm like, I gotta be on your desk. I gotta be on your desk. So yeah, so Goodreads is another probably, in that sort of direct way, but in this instance, Goodreads, I'm using Goodreads to actually give away the actual, not my lead magnet, but my actual book. So, and one of the reasons I'm doing that is because I want to get more reviews before I start doing some of those ads directly to from Amazon. I want to get my reviews up so that when people go to there, they go, oh, wow, it's got quite a bit, some good reviews, some a good number of reviews that gives some authenticity to people that want to actually take action on it. So in terms of wrapping up, and I know we probably only got a couple minutes, but I can stay on longer for questions. But just some key takeaways here are: remember, it's not about creating confident. In order to be confident, we got to start somewhere, and that starts with taking action, and that's becoming more competent at email lists, or more competent at uh, ads, or more competent at writing copy that's genuine. It's about, that authenticity, creating that connection over asking people to buy your book. You want to bring your authentically focused self in. There's that less buy my book, and it's more about who I am, what I like, some of the things that interest me, and engage with people, and then focusing on building that email list first. And then at that point, once your book page is optimized, at that point you can start sending people directly through ads to buy your books. Questions, comments, concerns?
Rick,
Yes, Lee.
I have a question about
Sure.
the platform.
Yep.
Is constant contact another possibility?
Yes. Yep. Exactly. Yep. Constant contact is another one. Yep.
What do you think of it?
Um, it's fine. It's fine. I haven't used it for my authorship. I'm sort of schizophrenic in my life, because I have corporate stuff that I do for consulting. So in the corporate space, I know it's used. A company I work with a lot, they use it for their marketing, but they sell insurance. So, but that's not to say you can't use it for an authorship, for writers. Personally, I wouldn't worry about the platform so much, because they all kind of do the same thing. Like, it wouldn't get, again, that rather than seeking perfection on getting the perfect platform, or just pick one and start, right? Most of them are free. If you don't like it, and one of the nice things about, like, for years, I was on MailChimp, and uh, they got very expensive. Once you start having 10,000, 12,000 readers on your list, it got very expensive for me. So I exported my list and went over to System.io and uploaded them, and there I am. So and that's the nice thing about email, is they're very portable. All you do is hit a button, and it exports it in a nice Excel spreadsheet. You go to your new platform and upload to your other email list provider. But so yeah, so I wouldn't get too hung up on which platform. Uh, but yeah, Constant Contact is definitely a top tier platform of choice. So yeah.
I
Rick,
asked
could you?
because I was
Oh,
used to using constant contact with a jazz club. And
yeah,
thank you.
yeah, sure, sure. Was it
Could you
Denise?
stop? Could you just stop the screen sharing so we could all see
Oh,
each other
sure.
and
Yeah,
hear
yeah,
you?
yeah. Oh, just
Thank
one more thing before if you're interested and this is an example of a funnel, um, or in a landing page. If you're interested in a free 7-day email course on how to actually sell more books, you can go to this QR code or the link here, and you can join my email list, and for which is an email list for writers, and I'll walk you through how to actually do some of this email marketing, and that. So that's just free as part of this demo. But and again, I'll send this out. Let me stop sharing my screen. Awesome. Good. All right.
Well, I want to thank you, Rick. This has been just more than I could have asked for when we
Oh,
first
great.
talked, and I'm so pleased. Um, but if you can email that to Lee,
I
she can
will.
distribute it. I don't have that distribution list.
Okay.
And I think it will be really helpful to go over that again, and and especially for those folks who couldn't be here today because they're staffing our table at the Selby Library, and other people who uh,
Sure.
may have had other things to do today. But I'm really pleased. I think the only time that I used an email list was when I wrote my first book about our travels around the world. And I had saved the email list of the travelers that you get at the end of the trip and made
Nice.
them, and did they buy the book from that? Perhaps. I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't plan to sell a lot of books because it was just a small book. But but I think that that's quite interesting, and I think that if your book is themed, then going to people that are interested. I mean, my last book was about dementia caregiving, and so
Mm.
um, you know, going to places that have memory care and giving, I made up some postcards with the book name, and that's available on Amazon at the bottom. And so distributing those to, people who may be the book readers or the book buyers is a way of doing that. I wrote a book about faith, my journey of poetic journey of faith, and
Nice.
again, going to churches, giving presentations to women's groups who are in that category. Um, and I've given away more books than I've sold, and that's fine too, because I just want to get it in the hands of readers. But so I think you really touched on some doable things, and I
Great.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. Uh,
Yeah, thank you.
any other questions, comments, concerns?
Well, I'll just say this was so
Sure.
helpful, Rick. It really spoke to me. And your thoughts, I've often thought about using an email list manager, even for like Suncoast writers, as for our
Yes.
communications as a form of outreach.
Yep.
And but I just really liked your approach to marketing and the relational side that you're emphasizing rather than the numbers side,
Yes.
because I really think that's where the success lies. So thank you so much. I learned a lot.
Yes. Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm glad. And yes, and it's not about coincidentally, the numbers do increase, because of that, because people, there's such a I gave a similar talk last week. Was it the week before? I can't weeks are, but it was how to market your books without marketing was the title. And you'll even see that we've become so numb these days to advertising. Even if you're going through Facebook, oh, that's an ad. Oh, there's an ad. There's an ad. People want authenticity and they want a connection with people. And we even commercials, right? We pause the commercials, we fast forward through commercials. We don't want any of that. We want genuine engagement, and that's how I like to operate. But I'd love to talk more about this, and feel free to email me. You can follow me at on my website at freedomoakmedia.com, and that's where you can sign up for the email, and we can engage from there as well. So, any other?
Well, I will say that one of our former members, I think last year, did a program on um, literacy citizenship, so to speak. I don't recall the name, but what she pointed out was that writers need to support writers. So
Yes.
even, if you read somebody's book, send them a review, uh, tell your social media follows about it. Um, so oftentimes we forget that, we are a community of writers and we need to support one another in that way. And so
Yes.
she did a great job on that.
Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And that's one of the reasons I am so passionate about Florida Writers Association. So if you're not part of Florida Writers Association, uh, plug for them. You know, please take a look at their website and sign up. It's a writing can be very um, how do you say, we do it all alone. It's a solo, it's us and our characters, right? So and that's why, when we think about marketing, we think, oh, I got to go out there and network and all of this stuff. But um supporting each other and just having like groups like this. I love writers groups. I love talking to writers groups like this where, people are passionate about writing and we love to talk about writing. We love to talk about reading. We love, with it. So it is, I agree. It's important to support each other and, and, um, yeah, good, good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been a pleasure. I've, yeah,
Thank you.
Well,
awesome.